So in this new exclusive book, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, I believe that's the title. I've listened to a few excerpts from it. I may read the whole book. Now you got to understand, guys. I actually read From Pieces to Weight. I read that book within 2 days of copping the book. Like, I've actually read a book. A lot of you guys are listening to the online audio. I go out, I buy books, I can read them in like 2 days, and I get all this information. I could tell you things about From Pieces to Weight that only the most true G Unit fan would know. Now you guys are looking at me like I'm crazy to a certain degree. Of course I was a G Unit fan in the past. How do you think I ever got knowledge of who people like Smurf and Damo were when I seen their Source magazine article? You know, like, you gotta understand, like, I've been in tune with this. I was one of the fans from back in the day that watched 50 with the Power of the Dollar release, and me and my friends would talk to each other and be like, yo, how would 50 ever go mainstream? How would 50 actually go mainstream? Like, what would he sound like going mainstream? So when I say things like Candy Shop was one of the wackest records ever recorded, a lot of people will say 50 will be known for In the Club, but you also got to recognize him for one of the most cheesy records ever to be released. Candy Shop with Olivia. I remember, I'm not just hating, I'm just keeping it real. I remember I was in the studio with Scott Storch. I was in the studio with the producer of Candy Shop, and I was just making an impression on Scott Storch this day, and I knew I could have never seen him again, but I had to keep it real with him. I had to let him know, bruh, Candy Shop is probably the record that killed 50 Cent's career. Like, I understand it pushed him to sell 1.1 million units in a week, but Candy Shop is the record that deactivated his career. Look what happened with Curtis. 50 had a song with Justin Timberlake that couldn't even go. The man had a record with Justin Timberlake that couldn't even go. It says a whole lot. You know? So when I actually told Storch that face to face, I said to him, I was like, Scott, you know, you're one of the dopest producers of all time. But that Candy Shop, man, that Candy Shop was ultimately corny. I just had to let him know. When Storch was actually on the phone, someone said, yo, how you doing? Storch is like, man, I was doing good. I was having a great day. Until Mikey T told me that I made the worst song of all time. So it really impacted him. But long story short, me and Storch went on to be great friends, you know, and me keeping it real with him that day, it made him realize that he could look to me for advice, and he could look to me for truthful advice and not just being a yes man. But anyways, today we're going to talk about Tony Yayo and 50 Cent's relationship. Very big topic. These guys were said to be friends like Puff and Big. Now, when my friends would tell me about Puff and Big back in the day, when I was like 12, 13 years old, 11 years old, they would say Puff and Big were the best friends. These guys would actually go shoe shopping together. Tony Yayo and 50 Cent have sort of given off that same type of aura. But, you know, the way that 50 has shown respect to Yayo in the past is dope. I mean, I'm referring to 50 leaving $1 million in the account for Yayo. Supposedly, 50 actually putting Tony Yayo on the Beg for Mercy album cover and making sure he got on a couple records. Like, that was dope. All of that was dope. But today we're looking at the fact that 50 Cent said that at one point he saw Tony Yayo being the next version of himself. That's a very interesting fact. Tony Yayo, when he first came out, he did interviews. Buck had sold 260,000 units first week. Banks sold 445,000 units first week. Yayo was doing interviews. He said he wanted to sell 700,000 first week. Tony Yayo wanted to sell 700,000 first week. He wanted to, you know, 50 had sold 800,000. Banks sold 440. Buck sold 260 straight out of Cashville. Yayo wanted to come right there and be on the top of G Unit and sell that 700,000. 50 looked at Yayo as he could potentially that he could be the next 50 Cent. Not a lot of other people did, though. Me, I was one of the bigger fans of Tony Yayo. I heard all the younger Tony Yayo mixtapes where he was spitting those hard G Unit 16s on the mixtapes, and I was like, yo, this is my favorite guy in G Unit. Banks is dope. Banks is the lyrical one. You can't deny Banks's lyrical prowess. You know, you can't deny his lyrical style. Yayo was more of the flashy rapper. You know what I mean? There's a big difference between there. Like, for instance, Gilly and Sue Surf were speaking, and I had brought up the fact that Gilly and Joe Budden, much different rappers. You could put them in a category like Tony Yayo and Lloyd Banks, because 50, when he had Banks, he had like his Rakim. He had his lyrical spitter. You know what I mean? Like, he had somebody that was going to be that for that portion of hip hop, and then Yayo was going to be his brigado. Buck was going to be his guy from the South. Game was going to be his guy from the West, if we're going to go that much deeper into it. But today it is about Tony Yayo. So in this book, 50 actually wrote that Yayo helped 50 keep up his gangster lifestyle. And these two, 50 and Yayo, they kept up the gangster lifestyle as 50 started to grind and started. You would see 50 did a lot of interviews. It wasn't necessarily G Unit yet, but Yayo was right there playing the background. I wonder if this is the days when Fred Rostar and Onyx say that they stomped out 50, and the days when they say that 50 got into some altercations with Wu-Tang when him and Yayo were still together right before they formed the G Unit Collective. So 50 started to take notice of like the fact that everywhere he would go there would be a police presence. So he realized he needed to change the way they would act. They couldn't just have drugs on them. They couldn't just have weapons on them. They couldn't just be rolling with people who had felonies. You know, they couldn't be rolling with people like that anymore. They needed to change the way they lived. And this is where 50 Cent says that he actually failed with Tony Yayo, because Yayo would get money and apparently just want to go out there and spend it on, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? He would just want to go out there and spend it on what his name was, apparently, Tony Yayo. I guess that's really where he got the name. I mean, everybody out there would think, obviously, Tony Yayo, but when you hear 50 actually confirming it in his book, it's just a little bit crazy, you know? I would have thought that Yayo was... Let's not even get into that. I got a lot of respect for Yayo. So when rap success actually started, 50 tried to mold his crew into being, you know, superstars that they should be, rolling the right way. So 50 actually convinced Yayo out of the street activity. Tony Yayo was supposed to be the new 50 Cent. They shared the stage together. Yayo was thrust into the spotlight. Yayo had been thrusted into the spotlight alongside 50 with all the performances. He got a release date for his album, Thoughts of a Predicate Felon. The release date was actually pushed back. They had So Seductive buzzing in May, and the album was supposed to drop June 29th or June 28th. And then they pushed the album back a whole summer. They pushed the album back a whole summer and they dropped it at the end of August. They easily decreased the buzz. If we want to go through Yayo's career, we could look at it. They dropped So Seductive, which was a dope visual, you know what I mean? Then they came out with Curious and they attached Pimpin' at the end of it. And they released I Know You Don't Love Me, which had all the G Unit guys on it. So another issue that 50 said is that he wanted Yayo to propel himself into being a businessman. If my memory serves, Tony Yayo was messing with both French Montana and Max B. And that was a major... Look what's going on in the industry right now. Everybody and their mom is saying free Max B, waiting for Max B to come home. And French Montana is easily the hottest rapper in the industry right now. So there's really not much you could tell me in regard to saying that Yayo wasn't putting himself around dope talent. I think Yayo could have had one of the dopest New York rosters if he was given the label opportunities, like how 50 was going to present Game with the Black Wall Street, how 50 had presented Buck with Straight Outta Cashville Records for the South, G Unit South. Yayo could have had a dope record label going if 50 would have put the money behind Max B, put the money behind French Montana. They could have even saved Max B from that 10-year bid. They could have even saved Maxi B from that 10-year bid if they would have just come behind it and do the deal. All right, guys. So that's all I'm going to give you today. We're just discussing that little portion right there about 50 Cent actually saying that Tony Yayo was supposed to be the new 50 Cent. As I've said earlier, a lot of this information was actually known before the book dropped. Everybody out there knew that Tony Yayo was being positioned as the next 50 Cent. I knew it. It was completely it was evitable. You know, you could see it. It was the writing was on the wall. Tony Yayo was supposed to be the new 50 Cent. I don't understand why Yayo never got a second album. Everybody who is enjoying this content, I shoot me a follow on Instagram. Let me know that you're liking the content. Let me know that you want me to continue with it. My Instagram is Mikey T _ the movie star. Everybody who follows me based on this video, I'm going to follow you back. I appreciate all the support. Thank you very much.